This is the Talent Bar, and I'm Colleen Gallagher. Join me for candid conversations with talent leaders as we explore the work that drives them, the lessons they've learned, and how they're helping people find careers they love. The show is sponsored by Lavalier, an interview intelligence platform built by Textio. I'm so excited for our guest today. She has done a ton of high volume hiring at a large breadth of companies, including some of the biggest tech names that you know, Apple, Canva, Lucid Motors, all where she hired over 1,200 people in 18 months to get an EV factory ready for production. She's now taken everything she's learned in that space and applied it to one of the most, I would say, underestimated recruiting challenges out there, which is the trades and looking for skilled labor. She's been hands-on with AI sourcing, screening, interview intelligence tools, and she has some real input on what works and what doesn't. She's currently the director of talent acquisition at A1 Garage Door Service. Sofie Roberge, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Well, let's dive right in. I love to start the show off with asking, what do you think is the one thing or one action that sets the best recruiters apart from the rest?
The responsiveness, urgency, empathy. These are some of the things that I look for in my recruiters. It's a tough market right now, and it's even more important now. The responsiveness, especially, right? People are looking for jobs, they have bills to pay, and it feels like their applications are sent in a big void right now. They feel like nobody's answering them, and it takes forever. And there's a lack of transparency as well. So I'm a huge fan of recruiters that are transparent, recruiters that give feedback, coach their candidates. We have a really, really tight kind of a timeline with our candidates at our company. We basically process every single candidate within 2 days of the application at A1. And that says a lot about our brand, about how much we care. So we have about 100,000 applicants a year for a garage door company.
Wow.
That's probably very surprising to hear.
Yeah.
We have over 40 locations nationwide. We operate under 4 brands. We're a private equity backed and also privately owned. And so we have 700 technicians on the road right now with a total of 1,200 employees. So those 100,000 applicants get processed by 4 recruiters within 2 days. So imagine that timeline, how fast that is. So we've had to rely on, being really like all having the same North Star, right? All believing that this matters. It does not matter just because we need to hire, but it matters for the candidate.
Yeah.
And it matters for the brand as well, right? When you have a great brand, when people know the experience is great, our employees refer us at an alarming rate. They love referring us because they know they put a referral through, that person is going to hear in 1 or 2 days if they get invited to an interview or not. But we've had to rely heavily on systems as well to bring automation and to bring just some efficiencies. There's just no way we could process those even 2 years ago, the technology we had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We'd never be able to, I would need 10 recruiters to be able to process this many
Yeah.
do it in a good way also.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dig in there because 100,000 applicants with 4 recruiters, like how?
Not easily or not elegantly. We're all like, oh, a little disheveled at the end of the day. But I think like what's really, really, so first of all, really smart systems, right? We use Ashby. It's not a secret that I'm a huge fan of Ashby. It's an incredibly smart ATS. It's easy for candidates to apply, and it's easy for also us to see our pipeline. Awesome dashboards. My recruiters will see every morning when they get in, they have 64 new applicants from the day before, and they just click. And so we utilize, everything is automated as well. I don't even have coordinators. I don't have anybody scheduling for them. So we've had to really kind of set up Ashby in a really smart way, right? So a ton of automation. As soon as we, move somebody forward, they get an email and a text that they're invited to get on our calendar. So there's no back and forth about when are you available? We'd like to talk to you. We're like, it's very, very quick. Decline reasons are all uploaded. All our templates are uploaded as well. So there is quite a bit of automation there that happens. And so there's nothing really left for my recruiters to kind of manually do, right? Other than just reviewing people. And we've also really leveraged all the AI function that Ashby has to offer. We tried a lot of other companies as well. Maybe we can get into this as well. But Ashby itself has some awesome features like AI criteria, for example. So we're able to really shortlist super quickly the people that we want to talk to. So roles, for example, that can have 1,000 applicants over a weekend, customer service rep, for example, right? So you call your garage doors broken, you want to talk to somebody. We have a huge team of customer service reps, and those roles are remote. So when we post those roles, 1,000 applicants over a weekend, it would be impossible for my recruiter to kind of review all 1,000. It would take her days to just invite 20 to the interviews and end up hiring 5 potentially. Um, so this is where really not having a huge team really forced us to look at efficiencies and automation. And so using the AI criteria that we have in there, we're able, and it pulls right from the job description, right? And what are some of the things that you're looking for? Experience in a call center, for example, right? Handling customer escalations, or looking for people with a home services background, or a business that has some kind of urgency background. Can even be medical or dental or that kind of thing, because when your garage door is not opening or closing, you need to get out of your house. So you need to get there's an urgency to it. And so being able to use those criteria has really helped us kind of shortlist already. And then we're able to go, yep, invite, 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 decline, 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 right? So we can do this very quickly. We can process candidates, probably 100 candidates in an hour utilizing our systems. So we're able to really stay on top of it for that.
I think one of the biggest myths right now is that AI in recruiting is working against candidates. So obviously you're using it a lot. Tell us your take on that.
There's one myth I would like to bust out there. Ghost job is one of them. Second one is this one. Ghost job's all the rage right now on LinkedIn. I wish candidates would not assume that if they're not selected for a job, it's the fault of AI, or AI rejected them, or humans are not looking at their resumes. Candidates that are qualified will be surfaced by AI, if anything, unless their resume has none of the qualifications we're looking for, right? And so AI is pretty smart too. Like for us, we're looking for people that are hospitable. So we love people that come from food service, that come from any business that has a customer service aspect to it, that has a sales aspect to it, kind of consultative sales, or it could be gym membership, or it could be realtors. It could be people that are selling furniture, selling cars. So anybody that has a relation, roofing is great. Pest control is great. So there's a lot of businesses out there with a consultative sales approach. So we're not direct, right? So it's not like look for the word roofing. If you don't have roofing, you'll be eliminated. It's smart. So AI is smart enough to understand context and to kind of surface people. And if it's not sure, it'll say like, may have the skill, but we're not really sure here. Take another look at the resume. But if somebody has a certain skill and it matches the job, AI will find you. And that's, I think, what people need to know. It would be insane for us to work with AI that does the opposite, right? We have so much work to do. I don't want AI to eliminate qualified candidates, or to not identify qualified. AI never eliminates. We always do. Every single resume, every single of those 100,000 applicants had eyes on it by a recruiter, and a recruiter had to decide, correct. AI says this person has none of the qualification. That's true. It's very easy to verify those things, right? So I think, if you're somebody in accounts payable that has accounts payable experience and it's on your resume as accounts payable and you're applying for an accounts payable role, even if there's 5,000 applicants, the people with the experience will be surfaced. And so I think that I understand candidates now that are frustrated. And, it's sometimes we're humans, right? We're going to look at external things that have nothing to do with our qualifications. Or our experience, but it's not AI. AI is not the problem. AI is going to help you if you have got the qualifications.
How are you dealing with, and perhaps it's not happening as much in terms of, maybe the answer is that it's not happening as much, but the thing I hear a lot from TA leaders is that the challenge is, even when you have those workflows set up, now people are using the job description to write the resume. And so it's really hard once you look at the resume to know whether or not that person is actually representing themselves appropriately. And so how are you dealing with that aspect, or are you seeing that much?
We're seeing it quite a bit. So we have, kind of two big pockets of recruiting at A1. So we have the professional roles, or what we call the corporate roles. And those roles, so IT is the most challenging probably, right? So folks from IT, they're savvy. Their resumes are incredibly polished and look like they're an absolutely great fit. And they're auto-applying for jobs. There's lots of tools now that will can auto-apply for jobs. And so they probably didn't fill out the application either. The AI tool filled that out. And so we are seeing a lot of perfect resumes on the corporate side. Resumes that read exactly like the job description. And so, we have to kind of, read between the lines a little bit, look at the company, and we have to take chances. We can't say this resume is too polished or it looks like it was made by AI, so we're not going to give him a shot. I would use AI if I was writing a resume right now and want it to be consistent, because, you write your resume and then you get another job and all of a sudden it's like it's not consistent and you're like, I want this to be better. And so I think it's smart to use AI to polish our resumes to make sure that It's compelling as well, and it's professionally written. Lots of resumes are still not very professionally written. I don't think those do. I don't mind somebody who's a little, I could tell they wrote this up and they were not too polished about it. I think that that authenticity actually really stands out now. So I think utilizing AI to make sure that your resume um, has the right level of vocabulary, maybe. And then like the prompts are really important, right? So if you're writing a resume for a VP role, it'll be very different than if you're retiring and you want to go work at Trader Joe's, right? The tone will be different. When I write my resume to go work at Trader Joe's, it will sound different than if I'm looking for a job as a VP of recruiting. And so I think the tone is important. I'm a huge fan of utilizing AI, and I can't blame candidates for doing it, but that authenticity really matters. We need to go back and then remove all the stuff that makes it look like it's obviously written by AI. Weird verb tenses, not verb tenses, but vocabulary that doesn't sound like you. So, the more people talk with their AI and the more they get to know their tool gets to know them, the more authentic it sounds. If you've never used AI and you're like, write me a resume to match this job description, I mean, we might still invite you for a resume, but ultimately you will be found out. If you're not qualified for a job, you might get invited to interviews, but it's not going to land you a job.
Yeah, I think using it to do the personalization, I always used to, if I, got outreached about a role and I was interested, I was like, okay, you know, I'll polish, I'll modify my resume to, if it's slightly different, based on the size of the company or based on the industry, to highlight my experience that I felt was more relevant. And so I do think that using AI to help you with that is really smart, but expecting candidates not to use AI is a little bit silly. Like I've seen companies who will say, we don't want you using any AI. And it's like, okay, well, that's just, frankly, I don't understand it. Is a nice way to put it, I guess. So
Right. If you're able to put something out really quick or fantastic analysis or something that it's correct. Like if it's correct and it's fast, like why wouldn't we want to use something that is better than what it used to be? There's definitely tasks that used to take me days that I can whip up now in, a very, very quick time if my prompts are great and verify the information. I think it still takes qualification, right? You can't just outsource all your knowledge. You have to look at what AI is spitting out and then go, okay, yeah, that's right.
sticking on the AI piece for a second, I know you are someone who's very interested in all the different technologies around here, and it sounds like you've tried quite a few. And I think you said you've used an AI screening tool in the past where it conducted the first round of interviews, but had actually a pretty low candidate participation rate. Like, what do you think went wrong there, and how are you thinking about using that in the future?
Yeah, the first one we use, I wasn't seeking one out, but somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and, was kind of impressed by the volume that we were processing. I was like, and I didn't even know it existed. So that was just about 2 years ago and that was brand new. And those guys really specialize in the trade. So that was very interesting. And, they were owner, it was a startup. It was very fun to kind of be part of it with these guys. It was a really cool tool. I found, so we had about 20% of people that would take the AI screen, right? That would say, I want to do this. So it was not a huge time saving for my recruiters, obviously, because there are some candidates like, oh, this candidate looks great. They were invited. They haven't taken it yet. I'm going to wait another day, but if they don't, I'm going to invite them. So there was this whole kind of waiting game. Are they going to? Are they not going to? We still want to talk to them. So we did make it a condition. We made it something optional. You can opt for this or you can decide not to do it. And if after 3 days they had not, done it, then we would schedule a screen with them. Of the screens that we conducted, their feedback was actually really positive. So that platform had a way for candidates to give it a smiley face or, a neutral face or an angry face at the end. And it turns out that even 2 years ago, people were surprised by how pleasant the experience was and how easy it was, right? So huge benefits for people, especially in the trades. They can do it after work. They can do it at 2 a.m. They can do it anytime they want. And also imagine, we have over 100,000 candidates now in Ashby. We've hired about 1,000 hours, so 99,000 were rejected. And so imagine opening this to everybody. Everybody can have an AI screen now. Even if your resume is not an exact match, we'll invite you to talk to you or you get talked to an AI agent. I think if I was a candidate now and I was faced with an AI screen, I would absolutely take it, knowing that it's putting me in a minority of people who are willing to take that screen to begin with. But it was fairly low. The platform was new. It was not really integrated with Ashby, which made it a little difficult, right? So we could tell in Ashby they took it, but we had to go to another platform to see the results. And ultimately, we have to kind of watch the video and listen to their voice tone because people work in sales. Our garage door technicians are customer facing. They work in sales. So we wanted to hear And so ultimately it was a great first trial, but because it had no time saving and the lack of integration, we decided to sunset that one. And then we tried another one that was a little bit better and a better integration. Um, and a third one, which is the smartest one of the three. But again, the integration is not there. And there's a lack of customization. So the customization for me is really, really important. It needs to be branded. It needs to look like us. I don't want candidates to feel like there's so many scams now, and people feel like they're always clicking links to get on this and to get on that, and they don't know what they're clicking on. So when they apply for a role, it needs to be completely integrated in the experience. It needs to look like day one. It can't look like a third-party platform. We need to be super transparent as well. So this is something we're going to be better when we're launching. Ashby's finally launching their own integrated AI screen agent. It was an acquisition from Talent Llama, and so I trust that the tool is going to be really great. So it'll be perfectly integrated, but I'm a huge fan of transparency. So it needs to be right in the job description. Hey, this is what the interview process looks like, or this is what you can expect. So if people know there's an AI screen, they can prepare for that. We're also going to give them the option to opt out from the beginning. I don't want an AI screen at all. If somebody's going to screen me, it needs to be a human, not an AI agent. So we're going to give people the option as well. And I think that's a huge one. So we'll be integrating embedded video as well to let people know why we're doing this. And in my opinion, it's a huge benefits to candidates. My team's not growing, and we're opening new locations. We're acquiring new locations. We're opening new ones. And so the job is not going to get any smaller. We just need to get a lot smarter with the tools. So I think by being transparent, by being seamless, saying it up front, making it easy for candidates as well. It's not going to be actually a video interview. It's only audio. I think the video was also a big deterrent for people. They feel they have to be perfect. The room has to be clean and the cat can't be around and your hair needs to be okay. And so I think the video was a deterrent. So this version will not be a video one. And I also think with time, people are getting used to it. I think that people have had more than one. And there's definitely two camps, right? You see them. I had a video or AI interview and it was horrible. Or somebody will say, I had an AI interview and it was actually pretty great. Like it was seamless. It was smart. I think the product makes a huge difference. You know, if you have a product that constantly cuts off people or is not smart enough to respond to the customer goes, oh, do you mean the candidate goes, oh, do you mean this? Or are you more asking me about this? Great. Thank you for that. You know, if you have an AI tool that's a little bit dumb, obviously candidates are going to go, AI is dumb and I don't want to do this. So I'm a big advocate for smart tools, not just a tool or any tool, but like a great product. And I've been a candidate too many times, and I'm sure I will be again. And I want that experience to feel smooth, and I want to know what's about to happen, and I want it to serve me as a candidate, not feel like I'm just being processed.
I guess, obviously it sounds like your team moves quickly. There's, a lot when you're dealing with volumes like that, you have to have really good processes in place and you have to have people who are motivated. And how do you hire for the right folks to be recruiters in an environment like that?
Yeah, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. I mean, there's a part of the job that's incredibly repetitive. So my recruiters that are working in the field, more specifically, the ones that hire garage door technicians, they'll do 40 to 50 screens a week themselves. And it can be quite repetitive. But they are completely embedded with operations. I have a strong background as an operator. I grew up in retail. And I started my career, the first 15 years was at IKEA as an operator. And as a project manager, I was hiring a lot of people because I had to open stores. This is kind of how I got into recruiting. But that operator mindset for me has always served me well. And that project management mindset as well, right? And so if I know that I need to be at 74 headcount for the Phoenix location by the end of the year, deconstructing this kind of project management mindset and working with operations. And so my recruiters are operators. They understand their hiring managers that, incredibly active on teams. We have weekly meetings with them. We go on their location. We know exactly what they're looking for. And we're very, very embedded. And so they work for the business. They know my North Star is always the candidate experience, and branding A1 is the best place to work for home services and in sales. But their job really is to serve the business. The business can't reach their goals if they're not staffed properly, and they're not staffed at the right quality as well. So they're very humble people that don't take anything personally. And I really look for people that take feedback and go, well, that wasn't so good. Let's figure this out, right? So I create a really safe environment for people to be in. It's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes too. And only people who don't do anything don't make mistakes. I really believe that. And so if we are going to process this many people and going to make this many hires, some mistakes are going to be made. It's just critical that we don't do the same mistake twice, right? So it's okay to make mistakes. If I had a recruiter recently who archived like 800 people and the email wasn't attached to it. I was like, oh my gosh, 800 people got rejected, but they'll never know because they didn't get an email. And I just couldn't sleep at night. So I'm like, we have to figure out a way um, to find those candidates
Yeah. Yeah.
and fix that. But it's not, we can all make mistakes. And I think that's really important. But so that North Star of the candidate first and then the business as well is really what keeps the team going.
You talk about being embedded in the business. And so how do you develop those relationships with the hiring manager and just make sure that they see you all as a partner?
I think that like understanding the operations, understanding results, and understanding goals. Like I love a scoreboard, like a scorecard, or I love metrics. I've never met a metric I didn't fall in love with. I want to know what they are. Is it gross close on the job average, conversion rate, financing percentages? Like I know all the metrics that a company operates, and I know the year goals, and I know are we on budget or ahead of budget, and where we're behind, the utilization, the scheduling percentage. So I know the metrics and I speak those metrics. And so I think that's really important for the business because when HR or TA is detached from the business, there's no respect there. We're just like, paper pushers. And I'm not interested. I always want to make the business move forward. And so I go to all of the, technician meetings. There's a technician meeting every Thursday morning, and I will attend the one from Phoenix all the time, or I'll log into the one from Houston or other locations. We have a training academy in Phoenix where we train 60 technicians a month. We fly them all in from all over the country and they stay with us. So I go to kind of the opening, the graduation ceremony as well. I also always keep one location at least. Like right now, I'm recruiting for Philly. It's a new location for us, and I really wanted to kind of get the tone, the culture, the quality of candidates, where people live, how difficult it is to hire before I move this location to the recruiter for the East Coast. I wanted to own it to get a good feel for it, and also adjust strategies if we needed to. So that's how I do it. I speak the business. I'm interested in the metrics. I go to the meetings. I ask questions. And when we have employees that leave or don't last, I take it seriously, and I want to find out why and what we could have done better as a company. So I see myself really as a partner and as a maximizer and an optimizer, and I bring speed to the business and I bring profit to the business. My role in HR, I find, is very, critical for that. And I invite others to do that as well. It's fun in operations.
Yeah. How do you what are some metrics that you use for your team specifically?
Yeah. I mean, we have some very specific goals for hiring per location. Because we work our budget backwards. So if we have a certain location that, makes $12 million a month, they need so many technicians to take so many leads at a certain conversion rate. So again, kind of project management style. So headcount per location for us, like my metric is 100% staffing for priority locations. So that means markets that are growing, markets that just opened. So that's 100% staffing for that. The rest of the country is at 97% staffing is the goal. And that's because there's always departures and we can't always backfill ahead of a departure. But that's a really important one for me. We also look at quality of hire. That's a very elusive key metric, that quality of hire. And recruiters fall in two camps. I hate quality of hire because it can't be measured, or I love quality of hire. So we spend quite a bit of time at A1 to develop quality of hire. So the first way that we do it is by having a hiring manager survey 60 days out and 120 days out. So everybody gets hired. There's an automated survey that basically says, would you hire this employee again? Rate them 1 to 5. Do you have any feedback? And so we're able to see per location, the kind of the satisfaction level from our hiring managers. We also look at turnover. So early turnover generally is an indication. I won't own it a year later, but within 90 days or 60 days, I think it's probably fair that we may have missed a mark on somebody. We were not clear enough on the expectations, or we misidentified. Even though we're only screening, we're not really doing the full interview. The hiring managers have a share in that as well. But I do own early turnover. So up to 90 days is something that we measure for sure. And we're just starting to build a scorecard. So we have a certain average amount that we want every technician to bring in at 60 days. So imagine a technician goes to your house, you need a new garage door. I'm going to use a fictitious number, so I'm not oversharing, but let's say it costs $1,000 for the repair on that day. We have a specific goal, let's say of $1,000, 60 days after graduating from the academy. And so that is a quality indicator for us because our garage door technicians, they go to your house. You call because you have a problem. They need to solve the problem. If they're not solving the problem, they're not selling anything. So we have a goal for that. So we measure kind of the quantifiably with that, dollar amount. We also measure from the manager's point of view, and we measure with the turnover report as well. So that quality of hire is really critical. And then we have all the rest of our key performance indicators. Time to offer are usually 15 days. So 5 days to get to recruiter screen, 5 days to get to hiring manager interview, and that depends of the availability of the candidate, of course, and the hiring manager. And lastly, we put every one of our candidates through a full day of ride along. So they get to ride with another technician for a full day. So we schedule them that. So it's 15 days for those three things to happen before they go to offer. Still a fairly, fast process.
Tell me more about the ride along. What's the goal of that portion?
Yeah. So a huge piece of that is for the candidate to see what life is like as a garage door technician. A lot of people that come from home services, whether they've done plumbing or roofing or pest control, are familiar with that, right? They have a van, they call the customer, I'm on my way to your house, I'll see you in 45 minutes. They get there, they do the inspection, they tell you what happened. But this is a very heavy sales role. When we go to, and this is something a lot of people don't know about the trades, people in trades are commission. And that's because if you say, oh, no, this is too expensive and you leave, the company makes no money. So we don't pay people hourly in the trades. Most trades pay people on a commission basis. And so there's a huge part of it that is sales. And we want our candidates to see that aspect. You need to like customers. You're going into their home, right? So as a customer, you want to be able to trust your garage door technician. That's really important. So they need to be friendly. They need to look professional. They need to care. They need to have good work ethics. They need to have integrity, right? They need to give you an estimate that makes sense. So they need to listen to what your needs are. They need to give you the correct estimate and do a proper inspection. But the reason we do the ride along is because we want the candidates to see the process, right? So you drive quite a bit, you might be in this side of town in the morning and this side of town at the end of the day. So there's a lot of time driving. And then there's that whole relationship part of it that people need to understand. Because a lot of guys are like, oh, I'd be really good at being a garage door technician. They'd probably be great at being an installer, right? Like if they want to do the mechanical work, that's one job. But being a garage door technician, it's sales and service. And then there's a repair part of it. Hot garage, cold garage, you're up in a ladder, you're working with your hands up in the air 75% of the time. So it's not for everyone. And this is really a great way for candidates to self-select out. And also the garage door technician that is taking them onto their van will also assess them. So they'll say, this guy was great. He asked all kinds of questions. He offered help. He was really observant. He was professional. And then other times they'll be like, this guy was on his phone the whole day. And, he vaped in the car and he, so we're like, okay, people will show us who they are. So we try to keep it as, as condensed as possible as a process. But that day of ride along is definitely something that has really helped us in refining that quality. And the candidate comes back after going, that was amazing. I love that. It is totally something I can do. Or sometimes people will come back and say, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I underestimated how much sales there were or underestimated how much in the elements that was going to be, right? Like, when they have ride along in Oklahoma in January, like they get to see their hands are pretty gold. So it's not for everybody. And I think it gives everybody a chance to see if they could, picture what life would be like if they worked with us.
You mentioned earlier, you have a program that you fly people in and they can go through. And I know one of the challenges is a lot of recruiters live on LinkedIn. And this is probably not necessarily something you can go source for these types of roles on LinkedIn. So, how do you find this? What percentage of folks are coming through from, your own training programs, or how are you building out your talent pipeline?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is by far the most challenging industry I've ever worked in. And I'm telling my friends that are still in tech, I'm like, I could hire a software engineer way faster than a garage door technician. Because you can find those people. They're easily identifiable, right, on LinkedIn. So if we're hiring from garage door companies, we don't find them on LinkedIn. It's very, very rare. Some operators will be on there, but, we have used our LinkedIn recruiter license every which way to find garage door people. It yields very few results. And generally, they may have been retired or was a mom and pop kind of owner operator. We're not seeing a lot of those guys, but um, so we get most of our candidates from Indeed. So about 70% of our candidates come from Indeed. And so we heavily sponsor our roles, and our roles are designed to pop up when people are going to look for a job in sales or a job in the trade. So that combination that we look for is people with a hospitality or a sales background. And that combination of additional mechanical skills is incredible, right? So somebody that may have been a mechanic, or maybe they don't have it on their resume, but they have great sales experience on their resume. And when we get to know them, you realize that their dad was a contractor and they grew up building houses with them and they put an addition to their house. So that mechanical aptitude, they don't need to be bulletproof, but somebody that knows their way around tools is always a huge shortcut for when they come to the academy. So we do. So our jobs are on Indeed. We get about 70% from Indeed. We get about 5% from LinkedIn, mostly for our corporate roles, right? So finance, accounting, HR, marketing roles will be mostly found on LinkedIn through a recruiter license. And then we have a huge referral program. So we do very, very, very well with our referral program. So that's been a really great pipeline for us. We're generous with our referral program. We offer $5,000 for a hire. So it's $500 when you get hired, $2,500 when you graduate from the training academy, and the balance at 6 months. And so that referral program is a great benefit for employees, and generally they want to make that money, so they find great people for us. So that's really how the pipeline is built, through referrals, mostly Indeed as well.
You spent a number of years at Lucid Motors before your current role, and had to do a bunch of high volume or hire for rapid growth there. I think one of the things on your profile talks about hiring 1,200 people in 18 months to get an EV factory ready. Like, how did you do that? And what were the types of roles you were hiring for there?
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. Yeah, Lucid, I was there for 4 years, started out in manufacturing, and over time kind of migrated. So started manufacturing, took over logistics and supply chain, and then took over sales and service, and then go to market and G&A, and then got Europe started in KSA. So I feel like I had 11 jobs when I worked at Lucid in those 4 years. But yes, to begin with, when I started, we were in Casa Grande, which is about 40 minutes south of Phoenix, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's about 12,000 people that live there, and only about 3,000 are of working age. And we needed to hire thousands of people for the plant, and we need to do this fast. And so so we did a lot of hiring events when we got started. So I wish we had AI in those days. Oh my goodness. Because the requirement was to be 18 years old, to have the ability to be on your feet, to speak and understand English for safety reasons. In a factory, there's a lot of things you need to understand how they work and be able to, work safely. And so the requirements were fairly low, but the number of people that we needed to hire were very, very high. And so if we would have had AI, then we would have crushed this with half the team, because I had 15 recruiters at the time. We screened every single person one by one. Can you imagine? This is we would never do it like that anymore. But we were having massive hiring events. So we started doing branding early. So we went to the Chamber of Commerce and the radio station. And there was a lot of noise about Lucid too, right? Because electric vehicle company in the US, there's not that many. There was Tesla to begin with, and then there's us. And so there was quite a bit of noise for that. But we started having hiring events. Our first one was in Casa Grande in a strip mall. And we had 1,000 people that showed up on that day, and we hired the first 400. And then we offered, referrals for those people. They started inviting their friends and their family. And so, in a smaller town, we are such a big fish, you will attract a lot of attention. And then obviously the first hires, we were so intentional. We wanted people that were going to be great coaches, for example, right? They were going to be all in, right? So from a culture point of view. And then of course, as time went by, we're like, okay, we need a second shift, we need a third shift. Maybe we need to loosen up a little bit. We can't reject 80% of people because we're going to run out of population, right? You can't get to that plant easily. No. And so, if you're going to pay people $18 an hour and they need to drive an hour in, an hour out, we're going to have to loosen things up a little bit. But we got there through just really, really hard work. I don't think we're as smart as we are now with technology. I think now would be a whole different ballgame. But so our most successful hiring initiatives were massive hiring events where we would invite people, they would have to apply for the job and confirm that they were coming. And then we had 60 hiring managers, and it was like speed dating. So we're very systematic, and they had their laptop and they were like, hire. And then my team was like sending offers, and it was kind of like a little assembly line. That was fun though. It's great team building when you go through this together.
How do you balance, or like what did you look at then in terms of like retention, and how did you refine it over time as the I guess as the factory got working, right? Because it was new.
It was new. And it was during COVID. I started in July of 2020, and supply chain was a huge problem. So there was a lot of start and stops, which was very, very difficult on our workforce. Like you start production, but then you're missing parts. We had to send people home halfway through the day because just we didn't have the parts for it. And so sometimes you could, reorient them. So there's a lot of cross training happening, one, right? So you can cross train people in different areas. And then the scheduling became, operations had to be on their game. If the parts didn't come in at 6 a.m, then you schedule people for 10 instead of 6. And, we try to have everybody working as many hours as possible because people need to earn a living as well, right? So it was a very, very difficult balancing act for sure. Jobs were hard to come by too during COVID. So we had a really, really good retention, surprisingly, because one, there was not that many jobs. And two, in Arizona, if you can, folks who are making a lower wage, right, $18-20 an hour in a factory setting, that factory was just like a museum of modern art. It was so beautiful. It was all robotics, and it was very cool because it had to be air conditioned, kept a certain degree for the robots. And so it's a treat for a lot of people that have done a lot of manual labor and have done kind of lower wage labor. And so people tended to stick around just because it was just a beautiful environment, that it was safe and clean and cool. And so people tended to stick around.
I guess shifting gears a little and learning more about you and how you got into all of these situations and got interested in doing this. Like what got you, or what was your path into recruiting?
I really got the bug when I was doing project management and opening new stores for IKEA. And so I was born and raised in Quebec City and moved to the US. It was supposed to be for a 6-month project in Costa Mesa in California in year 2000 and 2026, and I'm still here. But so, yeah, we were opening a new store there. And when you open a new store, you need to hire about 500 people. And it is the task of the project manager to hire all those people. We didn't even have HR at the time. There was like an HR person, but they were more like a payroll person, really. And so at the time, it was our job to organize like hiring events and to start advertising jobs. And in 2000, we were still advertising jobs in newspapers and like signs on the freeway. And we were hoping people would show up. And so I remember kind of organizing those hiring events with kind of like almost, like when you go to a timeshare and they pitch you at first and then you have to go time. So we would talk about IKEA and the culture. I mean, it was a very cool company. So it attracted a lot of people, amazing culture. People love IKEA. People drove from very far away to apply for jobs there. So we had an incredible candidate base. People are already like fanatics before, they wanted just kind of like Trader Joe's, like Apple. Also worked for Apple, another cult following company. So we attracted a ton of people, but kind of with that operations mindset, like having a video presentation and talking about all the possibilities in the future, and then kind of splitting the groups by different functions, and then empowering the managers to make decisions. We didn't even have interview guys or anything like that. It'd be like, you're hired, right? Like, write them an offer. It was a ton of fun. But I really love that part. I love finding people that are like bright and they're so interested in what you're doing, right? So people that are really driven, that have the same kind of values. That was a lot of fun for me. And then I did a lot of leadership hiring and leadership development, especially when I went at Apple. So at Apple, I was working the people function and a lot of leadership development. That was really, really cool. And a ton of recruiting too. So I was working in the field, so retail in the people function. And Apple has a very interesting way of hiring people, but we tended to attract the same profile of people over and over again, right? So we tended to attract young guys, right? Like early 20s, super high tech, love the brand, right? Like kind of big fans of the brand. And when I was working in a store, I could see that we had mostly female customers and mostly over the age of 50. And so we had a massive disconnect between our customer base and our employee base. And a lot of customers would come to me and go like, hey, can you help me with something? And I'd be like, let me get you somebody that can help you. Because I was like managing the floor, all the operations. And they'd be like, no, I want to talk to you. And so then I really realized that our workforce was not mirroring our customer base. And so we started a whole initiative of diversity and kind of recruiting, like boots on the ground, like going to Chico's and talking to a lady who taught Chico's, who was super friendly. And I recruited a lady from Chico's to come work at Apple, and she was a rock star. And another one who, came in the store and she was awesome. She's kind of semi-retired and like, what are you doing? And she's like, I would love to work here. I was like, awesome. So we started recruiting people that were a lot more diverse. Software engineers that were retired and, moms that need to work part-time. And so we kind of really kind of brought diversity. And those kind of strategic challenges is really what keeps me excited about recruiting. So I got into recruiting because of operations and found that people make operations, like people make operations, period. But kind of I love those kind of strategic challenges. We're just observing, like standing in that Scottsdale store going, we're not doing this right. I don't have the right people on the floor. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and it ties back to what you're doing now around looking at, there's not a bunch of folks on LinkedIn saying that they're, garage door technicians. You're looking across and seeing like what are the transferable skills, where can we train people, and making sure that we're, bringing people to our customer base that look like them, that talk like them, that are going to be appreciated, and sort of be able to build that the rapport with them. So that's
Yeah, I think that trades are having a moment, though. I think that trades are having a moment right now. A lot of people realize that you can make a great living in trades. You don't need to have a very long training, right? Garage doors is about 2 months, but electrical, plumbing, you don't need like a 4-year degree. And so I think trades are actually attracting a lot more people than we used to, and people see this in much more kind of a positive light. Yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining. This was so great to hear, just the themes around operations and sort of having that creative mindset around like, what do you need to do to get to the goal? And like, even when you outlined, knowing what the business goals are and making sure that you have a plan to get to that, I think, is often what, has to be done in order to meet goals, whether you're hiring 10 people or you're hiring, 1,000 people a year. And so, really sage advice, and really appreciate you joining us today.
It was a pleasure, Colleen. Thank you so much.
What's the best way for people to find you if they want to get connected?
People can find me on LinkedIn. First name, last name, Sofie Roberge. I'm easy to find. I think I'm the only one on LinkedIn, maybe with that name.
Yeah, that's always great.
That's always great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. And thanks to all our listeners. This has been another episode of The Talent Bar. Thank you for joining. Talk to you soon. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you so much for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at thetalentbarpodcast.com. The Talent Bar is sponsored by Lavalier, an interview intelligence platform. Lavalier goes beyond basic note takers to improve your ability to assess candidates with AI-powered interview questions, summaries, and transcription. With Lavalier, you can finally hire with speed and confidence.